those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I am by no means a fan of Britney Spears' music. However, Judge Reva Gates and Sam Ingham should be tied to a chair with a set of headphones on and made to listen to every single album on repeat.
It's Britney, bitch.
I've also received a lot of questions about Britney Spears' business manager, TriStar. And my comments are going to be brief about TriStar. All I will say for present purposes is this. We were forced to issue 2 subpoenas to TriStar Sports and Entertainment because they wouldn't voluntarily cooperate with Britney Spears. That is why we issued subpoenas to TriStar. Rather than voluntarily complying with those subpoenas, TriStar refused, and they filed a motion to suppress those subpoenas and suppress information that Britney Spears has requested. The most notable question that we've asked on behalf of Britney, of TriStar, is the following, a very simple question. How much money did you take from the estate? How much money did you receive from the estate? TriStar, and I'm not drawing any conclusions right now, but you can draw your own inference, has refused to answer that question.
There's good reason these are 2 separate questions. It seems there was money taken from Britney's estate, i.e. stolen, to the tune of $600 million plus, and then there was money paid for services rendered, be they phony or not. A good portion of this video is based off slaveprincess.com. It contains an hour-long documentary which is well worth watching, and I would encourage you, if you feel like buying them a coffee for this documentary, please go to slaveprincess.com and hit the donate link there.
While Lou Taylor may be the head of the conservatorship snake, the rest of the Team Con parasites, like Sam Ingham, Vivian Thoreen, Judge Reva Gates, Judge Brenda Penny, Brian Spears, Larry Rudolph, Andrew Wallet, and Jamie Lynn have stood by and watched, each playing their part to convince the world that Britney is perfectly happy and that her money is safe. Perhaps saddest of all is that her own parents allowed themselves to be used as puppets to falsely portray a wholesome public image of a devoted family whose only interest is their daughter's well-being. The reality is they all conspired to propagate the hideous, widely accepted lie that Britney could not care for herself so they could continue to leech her hard-earned wealth in perpetuity. And they will continue to get away with it until a formal criminal investigation is done into Lou Taylor and her spiderweb of suspicious business dealings that citizen journalists in the Free Britney movement have been exposing for years.
The person who put this wonderful documentary together is a journalist named Liz Crokin.
Lou Taylor is the CEO of a company called TriStar Sports and Entertainment. Court records show that Lou Taylor is the one that was able to convince Jamie Spears into putting Britney into a conservatorship.
In a January 30th email from conservatorship lawyer Geraldine Weil, so Geraldine was emailing Lou Taylor before the conservatorship even started. Geraldine, a lawyer, emails Lou Taylor, not a lawyer, not even Britney's business manager yet, to say, our judge selection is an issue. And then here comes Matt. What does it indicate? It indicates that Geraldine was in effect reporting to Lou about who the conservatorship judge would be. Now, I do want to read one passage from Lynn Spears' Through the Storm, because she says something very concerning. On page 181 of the hard copy book, it says, quiet plans, here, I'm reading from here. Quiet plans had been underway for 6 weeks for Jamie to petition the court for temporary conservatorship of Britney, but it seemed like an impossible dream at that point. With Sam Lutfi, still so entrenched in Britney's life. In fact, Jamie was going to file for the conservatorship on January 22nd, 8 days beforehand. But he and his business manager, Lou Taylor, felt God leading them to wait, fast, and pray, despite the frustration of a phalanx of lawyers.
So Lynn Spears thought it was a dream to put Britney in the conservatorship. Lordy, lordy, lordy.
She actually was serving as a spokesperson for Britney Spears after Britney was thrown in the psych ward for the second time.
Lou Taylor is the business manager for Britney Spears' father, mother, and younger sister, Jamie Lynn. Lou, good morning to you.
Notice how she didn't include Britney, so she wasn't yet Britney's business manager. She was just business manager for everybody else, clearly waiting for her perfect moment to strike.
Good morning, Meredith. Thanks for having me this morning.
Thanks for joining us. Britney's parents have not spoken out publicly about her recent problems, but they felt the need through you to do so now. What was it that made them decide it was important to speak out?
Well, we thought it was important for people to just have a voice for Jamie, or to hear a voice for Jamie and Lynn Spears.
And now you see where keeping Britney quiet and only speaking for Jamie and Lynn becomes the gameplay here on in.
You know, this has, again, just set another bar for us that has become disturbing for what's happened to be, you know, now again played out in the media. Yes, Lynn Spears has had a relationship with Robin.
She's talking about Dr. Phil's wife, Robin.
And he was invited. It was an invitation, but he was not invited to make this part of a public display or part of the media. And I think that was the heart of Jamie and Lynn, to say, look, you know, we're looking for support here, not to add, you know, to the trouble that's already upon them.
Trouble? Lynn called it a dream, not trouble.
Has he ever counseled her before, Lou? Ever counseled Britney?
No, not to my knowledge, but, you know, I'm here to speak for Jamie and for Lynn. And even in just making that statement, it would have been appropriate had he been given the authority to do so, and he just hadn't. You know, and this is a family where you've got Jamie and Lynn constantly rallying together as a family.
Jamie and Lynn. What's her priority? Jamie and Lynn, not Britney.
I mean, when do you ever rest in that if you're constantly in fear of being exploited? And, you know, I just felt for Jamie and Lynn, this was a time where, you know, they were taken advantage of, that they are people who love their daughter and that know exactly what's going on and want that support. What they don't know about Jamie and Lynn Spears is that every day Jamie goes to work as a professional chef, asking the Lord to give him the strength to honor the people he works for in the midst of circumstances. That Lynn Spears is a mother that is brokenhearted just because she's apart from her daughter, that she loves her daughter so much, and again, asking every day for God to give her strength and for her to continue to have hope.
God, give me strength. It's no wonder Britney's atheist now.
It's Britney, bitch.
And what we also know, Michael Lohan and Courtney Love have come out and they said that Lou Taylor tried to get them involved in conservatorships. Michael Lohan said that Lou Taylor wanted Lindsay Lohan to go into rehab as an excuse to get Lindsay Lohan into a conservatorship. Lou Taylor could then, in effect, control her and her money, which is exactly what she has done to Britney Spears.
Can you explain how Lou Taylor conspired to get Lindsay under conservatorship without Lindsay even knowing what was happening?
I mean, she went behind Lindsay's back and tried to befriend Lindsay's mom, Dina, my ex-wife, the same way she did it with Britney's father. She does target the weakest link, so to speak. And of course, what better time to do it than when someone's in rehab to say that they have issues and they can't take care of themselves. When in fact, even when Lindsay was in rehab, she was in a place where she could take care of herself.
How were you able to prevent them from getting her under conservatorship?
TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, how may I direct your call?
You know, I wanted information and she couldn't provide that information. And the information she did provide was kind of deflected and she went on to another subject. So she didn't address the questions I asked. You know, Lindsay was always first and foremost my daughter, and that's all that mattered to me. So I didn't have access to the finances. I never got a penny or wanted a penny. I just wanted her to be in a good place and surrounded by good people. The people that came around her and the friends and leading her in the wrong direction, you know, it was hard. If they're a kid, you have to really keep an eye on them. Keep that leash as tight as you can. I can't get into my situation, but the truth will come out. The things they've done are really, really wrong and they can't face the truth. They're blinded by the money and that's horrible. But, you know, that's between them and God.
It's Britney, bitch.
Courtney Love has called Lou Taylor out for trying to get her under some kind of a conservatorship that would in effect control Kurt Cobain's image and his music. Somebody posted on her Instagram page, "Is it true that Lou Taylor, who planned the conservatorship for Britney with her father, wanted to put you in a conservatorship too?" Courtney replied, "Short answer is yes. Lou did try for a mutated strain of a conservatorship. She made an attempt to control Kurt's name and likeness in all Nirvana songs, then sell the publishing, by which time I'd be in a conservatorship or more likely, dead. I was successful at blocking only Lou, but not her buddies. Her pack of wolves almost killed me and my only child." There's a pattern with Lou Taylor. She always seems to be around when there is a celebrity that is going through struggles, who happen to have parents who are vulnerable, whether it be their own problems with addiction or financial struggles.
It's Britney, bitch.
Lou Taylor has proudly displayed Prince as one of the many celebrities she represents, specifically dealing with the post-mortem rights of his estate. And court documents show she was paid over $200,000 for services rendered. Then, on January 2nd, 2021, a dispute was filed by the IRS, who claimed his estate had been undervalued by 50%.
The IRS saying it's worth $163.2 million and accuses administrators of undervaluing his assets by $80 million. America Bank and Trust, overseeing the late music icon's estate, it claims it's worth just $82.3 million. The IRS wants the bank to pay up over $32 million in back taxes.
Little is known as to the extent of TriStar's role in the massive discrepancy, but it represents yet another instance of significant misappropriation of funds suffered by one of Lou Taylor's famous clients.
It's Britney, bitch.
Could Kanye be next? The hip-hop star's public outbursts were well documented, but the parallels between his situation and that of Britney and Lindsay Lohan are striking. Lou Taylor began business ties with his mother-in-law,
Kris Jenner. Come on in.
Do you have any further comments about Caitlyn Jenner?
We start this half hour with word that Kanye West is waking up in a Los Angeles hospital where he's now under observation, reportedly for exhaustion and stress.
After what the media reported was a, quote, public meltdown in 2016, he was forced into a 5150 hold, a legal framework that allows others to step in and make decisions on their behalf. Sources close to Kanye have told this documentary they believed he had been drugged and set up, and that this 5150 hold was an attempt to get control of his kids and money. Later in 2020, Kanye tweeted that, quote, Kim was sending doctors to 5150 him and lock him up. A frightening accusation, especially after we already learned that Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner both had businesses managed by none other than Lou Taylor. It's also worth noting that Chris and Kim are currently working with Eden Yemeni and his Israeli security company Black Box that allegedly facilitated the secret surveillance that took place in Britney's home. As far back as 2015, Lou Taylor showed up in public records as a registered agent for Kylie Jenner's cosmetics company, King Kylie Holdings, and also Kim Kardashian's company, KKW Fragrance LLC. Kylie's company was then subsequently valued at $1.2 billion, and it was announced by Forbes that she had become the youngest ever self-made billionaire.
Kylie Jenner just cut a major deal. The 22-year-old of Keeping Up with the Kardashians fame, of course, has agreed to sell a majority stake in her cosmetics line to industry giant Coty for $600 million. And the deal values her brand in total $1.2 billion.
Her legions of loyal fans praised her for her entrepreneurial prowess and business acumen, not realizing they were watching another one of Lou Taylor's possible scams playing out. Coty bought the massive stake while seemingly doing very little of the due diligence needed to determine whether the valuation was accurate. They invested over $600 million of their shareholders' value to buy the stake, and according to the SEC, they completed the transaction in cash, an unusual event for acquisitions of that size. Lou Taylor was a registered agent for Kylie Cosmetics at the time, so it was likely she played a key role in brokering the sale. Coty shareholders then called the deal into question after they realized Kylie's company had been grossly overvalued. Forbes even retracted their story, citing that she most likely showed them fake tax returns. Since then, lawsuits against both companies were brought against Coty by disgruntled shareholders who realized their investments were squandered on these toxic and suspicious deals. Now, this is where it gets really weird. Around the time of the 51% cash sale of King Kylie LLC by Coty, a huge and unusual payment hit the account of Stonebridge Investment Counsel in the amount of, you guessed it, approximately $600 million.
It's Britney, bitch.
In July of 2011, just a few months after it was revealed Lou Taylor was officially part of Britney's team, Britney's charity, the Britney Spears Foundation, was reportedly zeroed out. According to liquidation records, $50,000 went to the Lou Taylor Thai charity Mercy Ministries.
The Hillsong Church is trying to distance itself from claims it's linked to a group which abused young women seeking help to overcome mental problems. They insist they received Bible studies and exorcism instead of the medical or psychiatric care they needed. Marguerite McKinnon reports.
What they were doing was morally wrong and legally wrong. when they would pray, they would go, "We cast the demon out of you. You have the demon all over you. You have the demon in your life. You have a demon that's holding you."
Rhiannon Canham Wright was a teenage drug addict suffering depression and seeking help. Instead, she says she became the victim of a Bible cult and held captive for 9 months.
I was definitely in a prison. Everything was under lock and key. You had no access to your own personal belongings.
Rhiannon signed up to Mercy Ministries, a program designed to help young women aged 16 to 28, suffering anything from eating disorders to drug addiction and abuse. Her claim, she was treated with Bible study and worship. Rhiannon paid $200 entry fee and had to sign over all her Centrelink payments.
I was allergic to mushrooms and I was forced to eat them.
Rhiannon also claims she was subjected to group exorcisms.
The reason why I'm stating it's an exorcism is the way that they went about it, by laying hands, pushing you onto the floor, pushing you into worshipping God the way that they want you to. It's more of a cult behaviour.
Mercy Ministries claims the program is supported by psychologists, doctors, a dietitian, social workers and counsellors.
I never saw a psychologist or a psychiatrist while I was there. All I saw were Bible students, Bible college students, or people that were in the local church that were high up. That's all I saw there. No one else, that's for sure.
Executive Director of Mercy Ministries Peter Irvine says the allegations of mistreatment are shocking and wrong. As well as being in charge of Mercy Ministries, Peter is also CEO of the successful Gloria Jean's Coffee. He denies any claims girls were force-fed, locked up, abused or subjected to exorcisms.
At times they will have a Bible study and sometimes they'll pray together. There's no exorcism, no driving out of spirits, not how the program works.
Mercy Ministries began in 2000. 96 women have graduated, 6 failed, and only 2 have come forward to complain.
It's no secret sect, it's not a religion, it's nothing like that, because the girls go back home and they get on with their normal lives.
So there's nothing to apologise for?
There's nothing to apologise for, and when we've got a program that's highly successful, we don't want to change much of it. If we change it to what people want, then it's not going to be successful, but they're going to feel happy, but we're not helping people.
You know, you need qualified people to actually work with anorexic or bulimic people. A support person cannot do it. You need a psychologist to do it.
Lou and her husband, Pastor Rob Taylor, have partnered with Mercy Ministries. They've helped the charity with financial funding, and they've been active participants in their events. When Lou represented supermodel Nikki Taylor, Nikki served as an honorary chair of Mercy Ministries.
Love you, Nan. Love you, Mercy. Bye, God.
Pastor Taylor's church, Calvary Chapel, even had Mercy listed on their site as part of their missions. The charity, according to their own website, claims to help young women with struggles, including women who have been victims of sexual abuse and, ironically, sex trafficking. In 2009, the Australia Mercy Ministries chapter had to return $120,000 for taking government aid from their patients while falsely claiming they used licensed therapists. One member of Australia's parliament called the organization a, quote, particularly bad example of a money-making cult.
It's highly disturbing that money was taken from Britney Spears' foundation and was transferred to a quote-unquote foundation that is linked to Lou Taylor and riddled with corruption and abuse claims that were so bad that they had to shut down chapters and rename the charity.
It's Britney, bitch.
Britney's team used all kinds of intimidation tactics against Britney fans.
So earlier this week, Breathe Heavy posted a story that first originated on page 6, and it detailed Courtney Love's alleged experience with Lou Taylor.
Jordan Miller, who runs a Britney Spears fan site, Breathe Heavy, has been threatened not only by Jamie Spears, but also by Lou Taylor.
If you're a Britney Spears fan, you're well aware of Lou Taylor's presence and her alleged ties into Britney Spears' conservatorship. Courtney Love made some claims about Taylor that Taylor wants to go on the record and refute. Taylor sent me, through her legal counsel, a demand letter stating that if I don't retract the story, that I could be entangled in a legal battle with her. So because I don't want to be involved in any sort of legal drama with Taylor or in general, I've decided to comply and I'm going to issue an apology.
All Jordan did was report about what Courtney Love said instead of going after the mainstream media outlet that actually originally covered the story. She went after a young Britney fan because they knew that some of these fans didn't necessarily have the money to fight a lawsuit against these powerful people.
Even though I don't personally feel like I should have to, that apologies should come from a sincere place in your heart. But I also understand what's at stake, and I'd rather just kind of keep things moving because there's a bigger picture here.
I am BJ. I am a lawyer licensed to practice law in New Jersey. I just recently graduated from law school in the University of Pennsylvania Law School class of 2020. And then sort of shortly after that, I took and passed the bar exam, which is the test you have to take to be a lawyer. And then I actually started working as a lawyer at a huge law firm in New York. And also during, the course of the pandemic, I found out, about the fact that Britney Spears was still in a conservatorship because of the pandemic. I did have a lot of free time, and so I kind of became very involved in the Free Britney movement using my legal expertise, from school. I had known about a few ways to interpret cases, and I realized there was not anyone in the Free Britney movement at that time really reading the cases and the court filings to people to tell them what was going on. And so I kind of put myself right into that role. And so since about June 2020, I have been very heavily involved in the Free Britney movement.
Why do you want to do this?
I feel compelled to make this video because the person who this video is about is a bully. And she has hurt people and terrified people and scared people using the legal system and using her power, connections, and resources. I am making this video because she tried to scare me into silence. And I just need to tell her and the whole rest of the world that not only can I not be scared into silence, but her reign of terror, being able to scare people into silence, is coming to an end. And if I have to be the first domino that falls to bring down her reign of terror, I'm happy to do that. This all really started in July 2020, so a bit over a year ago. I became aware that Britney was still in a conservatorship. First, I went to the media. I went just to Google to try and figure out what was going on in Britney's case. And I wasn't really getting any clear answers about the legalities of the case. Immediately, I start doing other research, right, on Google and public databases and trying to figure out really what was going on in the conservatorship.
So I really should be studying for the bar exam right now, but I'm too obsessed with this Free Britney stuff. So who do I send this to if I found all the original legal documents? I literally just created this TikTok yesterday. I'm just trying to show y'all that I had actually found some stuff here. I'm pretty sure the last lawyer who tried to help Britney for free ended up getting a temporary restraining order filed against them, but I don't really care. I don't have shit else better to do, and she deserves to be free because this is ridiculous.
And it really only took me a couple weeks of research to see the name Lou Taylor. Buckle up because this might get confusing. So if you go to the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission of the United States government, and type in Louise Taylor into the advisor information section, you'll see that she used to be an investment advisor. You also see that she worked at one firm for 9 years called Stonebridge Wealth Management. Some weird stuff has gone on where they have been registered in other states and terminated, and some as recently as this year. And you see that they have filed notices to be registered. So here we see Sweet Jamie Music Inc., which is in good standing in the state of Louisiana. You see the secretary and director are Jamie Lynn Spears, but the other director, president, and treasurer are Lou Taylor. But in 2008, which happens to be the exact same year of the conservatorship, Lynn Spears' name is nowhere to be found, and James P. Spears was listed as president. In the document where they surrender it, look who signs to surrender the right to do business. So Stonebridge Investment Counsel has 3 employees, one of whom is Lou Taylor, the executive vice president, according to the SEC. It has $722 million under management, but you'll notice that about $600 million of those dollars came in 2020. That seemed like a lot to me, so it made me investigate. As we all know, the former conservator of Britney Spears' estate, Andrew Wallet, resigned in 2019. And everyone's been asking, where is all of Britney Spears' money that she made from all of the tours and everything else? Basically, Andrew Wallet moved out of the way, handed over the reins, and all of a sudden, $600 million ended up under Lou Taylor's investment firm.
And of course, by this time, I was pretty acquainted with many members of the Free Britney movement, and so they had a lot better idea and knowledge of some of these players than I did. I was brand new not only to the movement, but even to being a Britney Spears fan. So I had a lot of, friendships developed very early on in the Free Britney movement because I needed help understanding the case, and they needed help understanding the case. So I'm doing a little research here and there, and I put together eventually with many people's help and also just research that Lou Taylor is, and she was at the time, Britney's business manager. And I don't really know much about Hollywood and managers and things, so I don't really still to this day exactly know what Lou's role was with Britney. But I do know that Lou Taylor's name and her business address for TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group were on dozens of Britney Spears' business filings.
11 Music Circle South, that's TriStar. But also 215 Ward Circle, Brentwood. It was formerly Stonebridge Investment Counsel's address and TriStar's address together. It had Britney touring, TriStar Sports and Entertainment, 215 Ward Circle, Brentwood, and they had it in Suite 200. They've also listed this as Britney's house. So in 2013, that address changed to this one. And the same time, that address changed on Lou Taylor's husband's church. Calvary Chapel used to use this 215 Ward Circle address as their address, right? So did Stonebridge, so did TriStar. They just now, in March 2020, purchased the $1.1 million home, and they're calling it a church. Yeah. Why are they calling it a church, you might ask? Well, because it's tax exempt.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has all kinds of rules for certain types of companies. And they have huge databases where you can look up whether or not certain people have registered with them and things like that, right? So I'm on that website one day in July or August 2020, and I just casually type in Louise Taylor, and sure enough, up pops a search result. Louise Mary Taylor, whose former name was Sawyer, was, at the time, what appeared to me, actively working as an investment advisor. So I immediately began looking into this. Now, I now know that she did not actively work as an investment advisor in 2020. She stopped doing that in 2013. But I found out that Lou Taylor worked as a registered investment advisor for a company called Stonebridge Wealth Management. Now, Stonebridge has a couple of nicknames that it goes by, including Stonebridge Investment Counsel. But Lou Taylor not only worked there as a registered investment advisor, she was also listed as co-owner, founder, and the executive vice president, a director. So it appeared to me that Lou Taylor owned this company and worked as an employee of the company, which is fine. Lots of people do that. That's not a problem. But I eventually made the connection that while Lou Taylor was working as Britney Spears' business manager
for at least 5 years. She was also simultaneously working for Stonebridge. Not only was she working as Britney's business manager and as Stonebridge's owner and an investment advisor and all that, but Lou Taylor was also seemingly directing money to come from Britney's estate in the conservatorship and to be handled by this company, Stonebridge. So from where I was sitting, it appeared as though Lou Taylor was self-dealing. She was using her connections to Britney Spears to kind of have her other company be able to handle some of Britney's money, and maybe she was getting double the fees somehow. These are all just speculations, right, I was having back at that time. Then I made another discovery, and the next discovery is not only was Lou Taylor doing all three of those jobs I just described, but during Britney's conservatorship, Lou Taylor's company TriStar was responsible for reporting about Britney's finances to the court for the conservatorship. So from where I was sitting, and from what I understand even still to this day, there was really no true oversight as to whether or not what Lou Taylor was doing was ever checked by anyone else, right? Like, she was the business manager, she was an investment advisor, it seems, where Britney's money was, so she would be on both sides of that deal. Then she was also the person responsible for calculating royalties, for coming up with how much percentage she was gonna take. Like, Jamie Spears maybe was negotiating some of this, but I mean, really, I would assume, and this is just my common sense thinking at the time, that probably Lou Taylor was a little bit of a mastermind. Now, this is just my opinion, this isn't a fact, but all of those realizations come to light because of me, because I was reading the court document. And then, right as I'm making those connections, I was in real time making videos as well. All of these things transpire. I've been in the Free Britney movement for like 4 weeks. I made a discovery having to do with Lou Taylor and Stonebridge and all of that, right?
$683 million is the amount of assets under management for high net worth individuals. If we're trying to narrow in on where Britney Spears' money is, I think we might want to look in that category.
I'm on that website, I'm typing in Stonebridge Investment Council, and I see one of the strangest looking line graphs I've ever seen. As the years go from 2006, 7, 2002 I think is when they started, it's kind of like steady, like climbing a little, but like it's all just like less than 100 million. And then 2009, it kind of has a pretty significant bump, which I thought was interesting considering that was the year after Britney was put into a conservatorship. So the question arose in my mind, was Britney's money put into this Stonebridge during 2009, the first year of her conservatorship? I mean, I don't know. Still to this day, I don't know. I do know some of Britney's money from 2010 was in Stonebridge, but I don't know about 2009. But it was a question that came in my mind. So then, when you got to like 2019, you went from like $130 million assets under management, and then a line went boom, straight up, just immediately straight up. $500 or $600 million. Now the graph isn't very precise, so it's hard to tell if it's 2019 or 2020 that this line shoots straight up. 130 million all the way up to 700 million all of a sudden. And I was like, where did that money come from? My assumption was that it all came from the same place. And I was like, was this somehow Britney Spears' money? Because all the clues I had at that point were Lou Taylor doesn't have a lot of oversight. Lou Taylor is, at that point, she was still the business manager. Another clue that we had was that the conservatorship team always claimed Britney was worth around $59 to $61 million.
She now has an estate worth $60 million.
And that seemed impossible to a lot of people, including myself, because she had been documented on record for like X Factor and all these other things for making an accumulated several $100 million since the conservatorship started.
Estimated net worth of $200 million.
And so people were like, where is her money? What did they do with all of that money if she's only worth $60 million? And so there was this Money Nation article that was written in 2016 that claimed Britney should be worth in the $600 million area. Putting all those little clues together, I just thought, is that the missing $600 million? Right in the area that I was making these discoveries, Jamie Lynn Spears files some documents on Britney's conservatorship case. What we end up finding out in those documents filed in August 2020 is that Jamie Lynn Spears had been made trustee of Britney's most valuable trust, called the SJB Revocable Trust. So not only had that happened a couple years ago, we found this out in 2020, but it really had happened in 2018. The other thing that we found out in these filings was that Jamie Lynn Spears, as trustee of this trust, was trying to make a few changes as to how the money in the trust was going to be dealt with. And long story short, one of the things that Jamie Lynn Spears wanted to do was change the way that it was administered such that there would need to be a kind of investment advisor involved all of a sudden. And wouldn't you know, the investment advisor that Jamie Lynn Spears wanted to put all of the money in Britney's most valuable trust in just so happened to be Stonebridge Investment Counsel. Of course, what this would mean on the ground is Stonebridge would be able to collect a substantial amount of money in fees each year. I mean, if I'm doing my calculations correctly, between like $1 to $4 million in fees for being able to act in this capacity. Now, a lot of questions remain. I don't know if Lou Taylor is still involved with Stonebridge. I don't know, right? All I know is what I just told y'all. Is Lou Taylor still involved with Stonebridge? Who knows? Is it Britney's money? I'm not sure. You know, there's a lot of what ifs. The next month, Lou Taylor resigns as Britney's business manager. Now, she had been acting in that capacity for like 12 years, at least 10 years. And the next month, after Jamie Lynn makes all these filings to move all this stuff in Stonebridge and all this stuff, Lou Taylor quits as Britney's business manager. No one exactly necessarily knows why. There was all kind of other stuff going on at that time. But I never received a cease and desist. In February 2021, I officially began working as a lawyer at a law firm in Manhattan. And the name of the law firm is Winston & Strawn LLP. And within the first couple days of working at the law firm, I just got nervous. I got nervous and I was scared because I felt like I'm making all these connections. I had a feeling that it was possible that those filings were made because of my discovery. I also knew Lou Taylor had sued fans before. And I'm just starting my first lawyer job ever, right? So I'm also in a lot of student debt. I had just graduated, right? Like I was really depending on this job. Like I had the intention of being there for at least a few years. It was like a dream come true type of job. And so I didn't want to jeopardize it. And so I also didn't want to stop doing my Free Britney advocacy. I wanted to be able to do both. And so I knew that it would be better if I asked permission up front rather than later down the road, maybe Lou Taylor tried to sue me, who knows? Then my work be like, well, we didn't even know you were doing this. I didn't want to feel like I was keeping it a secret. I wanted to do everything correctly and follow the rules and do everything the right way. I was being asked to interview for a documentary and I didn't know if I was allowed to, so I was like, let me just get this all out up front in my first, couple weeks and just, we'll see what happens and we'll go from there. I asked my training coordinator what our firm's social media policy was and what the media policy was as for like appearing in documentaries and stuff like that. And she didn't know. And she was like, to be honest with you, usually our associates aren't being asked to interview for documentaries, so I'll have to ask someone else. And she did though, she helped me. And eventually that same conversation had to be had several times until it worked my way all the way up to the general counsel of the law firm. So I ended up talking to this guy. And we get on the phone and I'm very nervous because he's really important and I'm brand new. He thought I was working on Britney's case. I was like, no, I'm not working on the case. I explained to him what I had been doing and he thought it was cool. And he was like, well, this doesn't sound controversial to me. Just as long as you're not going out there and saying that you're representing the firm, or that you're representing any clients, just say, this is your own opinion. Don't say that it's the firm's opinion or anything like that, but that should be fine. And I said, okay. And he said, yeah, this doesn't sound controversial at all. And like part of me wanted to just be like, okay, thanks. But part of me just had this gut feeling I needed to full disclosure. And I said, well, controversial part is there's this lady, Lou Taylor. She's Britney Spears' former business manager and she is very litigious. She likes to sue people. I just don't want her to come try to interfere with my employment. And the general counsel said, this is the least controversial thing I'm gonna deal with today. And he said, but do make sure you run it through conflicts, make sure she's not a client or whatever. Or, maybe he said he would run it through conflicts. I don't remember exactly, but he gave me like one little caveat, like let's make double sure that she's not a client. And as long as she's not, carry on with what you're doing. And if you're on a documentary, make sure you send me the link. So I was like, this is a dream come true. I'm gonna be able to do my dream job and learn from all these amazing, cool, powerful attorneys, and I'm also gonna be able to still do my Free Britney activism without this limitation. And I was really scared, but I was glad that I asked permission because I got permission. You would love if that was the happy ending, but. And now we're in May 2021. And in May, I get an email from that same general counsel who I had spoken with in February. And he says, do I have time to talk? And it's like, you have to make time to talk. You know what I mean? It's not like an option. We end up getting on the phone. I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly, but he's like, do you remember the conversation we had a few months ago about your Free Britney activism? And I said, of course. I'm being very respectful, right? Like, yeah, yes. And I'm nervous at this point because I'm like, what's happened? Like, what did Lou Taylor call? Like, I didn't know, but I just had a gut feeling like something wasn't good. Like, I don't think he was calling to like ask for it. Like, are you in a documentary? No, I think it was not good. Like, I was nervous. And I said, yeah, I remember. And then he was like, have you ever made any videos about a woman named Lou Taylor or a company named TriStar or something like that? He definitely asked me about Lou Taylor, and I said, yeah, a lot of videos, a lot of posts. And he says, well, it's come to my attention that TriStar is now a client of the firm. And I freaked out. I said, oh my God, I knew. I told you about this woman and I knew this was gonna happen. And I said, she's doing this on purpose to silence my activism. And he says, well, no, we don't know that. You wouldn't wanna go making those type of accusations if you don't know that for sure. And I was like, okay, but it kind of seems like it. I've been working here for 3 months and she's already like miraculously a client of the firm. I don't believe that. She's coming here on purpose. I'm telling you. From my memory, the conversation turned to, this is paraphrasing, okay, regardless of whether you think she did this on purpose or not or whatever, would you be willing to take down your posts and videos where you mention TriStar or its CEO, Lou Taylor? And I said, no. Because y'all, my research was around this finances, the business, all that, and that is Lou Taylor. You cannot take one step in any direction of this conservatorship without finding her. Whether it be the entertainment side, the business side, the finances, the accounting, the CPA, the invoices, anywhere you go, the investing, you gonna find Lou Taylor. So it's like, that was most of my content did mention her some way, shape, or form. And so I said, Larry, you gave me permission in February, explicitly, by name, to mention her. No conflicts have ever arisen. I said, my work, my research is inextricably intertwined with Lou Taylor. I've been acting in reliance upon what you told me 3 months ago, which was I could make videos about her. So now I have hundreds of hours worth of videos, unduly burdensome. If I have an hour-long video and I mention Lou Taylor for 40 seconds, I have to delete the whole video now. And that's because you told me I could make videos about her. And he's like, okay, well, all right, I hear you. Well, what about future videos? Would you be willing to refrain from mentioning TriStar in future videos? It was all like a bit overwhelming. I was completely blindsided. Now, was I surprised? Truly? No. But it was still like a bit disorienting for it to happen. And so I said, I don't know, I have to think about it. And then I said to him, am I allowed to say no? And he kind of says, right now it's a request. And then so to me, a request means it's optional, right? And then so the next question I asked him is, what happens if I say no? And he said, well, I actually don't know because no one's ever told me no before. Usually if we ask people to remove something from their social media, they just do. So I don't know. But right now it's just a request, so I'm not telling you to remove anything. And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna think about whether or not I'm willing to refrain from posting about TriStar or Lou Taylor in the future. And in the meantime, can you find out for me if I'm actually really allowed to say no? Like, is this gonna interfere with my job? Am I gonna get fired? Like, I need to know what the consequence is so I can make an informed decision, right? That's a variable that I needed to consider. So we get off the phone. And then I call my partner and I said, you will never believe this. Lou Taylor came to my law firm and she's trying to hire my law firm. And they're trying to make me take my videos down. And they're trying to make me stop talking about her on the internet. And then he's like, what did you tell them? And I said, well, I told them I'm not taking down my videos that I already made because they gave me permission to do that. That's stupid, I'm not doing that. but I told him that I would think about in the future. And then he's like, why? She already knows that you're already making those videos. Like, that's not fair. Why should she just get to come over there and make you, and I was like, yeah, but they're saying she didn't do it on purpose. Maybe it wasn't on purpose, or maybe whatever. And he was like, yeah, but no matter if it was on purpose or not, she is now at the law firm trying to make you not talk about her when she already know, like, you were there first, basically. And I was like, yeah, true. And also, like, it's not even a conflict, because there's these rules in the law, right? When you're a lawyer, you have to follow ethical rules, professional rules, where it's like there's certain things that are considered to be conflicts of interest. And if you have something like that, it limits your behavior as a lawyer on what you're able to do, for example, right? So if you're giving someone legal advice and they're asking you a question for the purpose of seeking legal advice, and you answer the question for the purpose of helping them find answers to their legal advice question, then the communication, whether it be an email or a conversation, written or spoken, is considered to be confidential. The lawyer is not supposed to talk about it with other people, right? So that's a true conflict. But in this situation, I never spoke to Lou Taylor. She never relayed any information to me for any purpose other than to shut me up. But at the time, I was so scared because I had all these like important, powerful lawyers, like the general counsel of the law firm. And now I knew he was about to take my question of what if I say no, up to even more powerful people at the law firm on the executive committee or the executive board. And so, 3 months into my career, my name is already on the lips of people that a lot of people at the law firm never talked to once for any reason. And so it put a huge target on my back, in my opinion, that made me stand out in a bad way from my other peers at the law firm. Basically, I'm talking on the phone to Prim, and we were talking about this stuff, and I said, you know what, you're right. Let me call this guy back. I'm gonna tell him that I am gonna keep making my videos because they gave me permission to. There is no conflict. All they have to do is use their fancy computer system and screen me out from being able to look at anything of her files, and I won't even be able to find it. That's why they pay so much money for those systems. It's why it exists. So I don't know why I'm being asked these questions, and I just got my arms around it a little bit, and I realized, like, even if she did not on purpose come to my law firm for the purpose of silencing me, even if she didn't, even if it was a total coincidence, once she was there, she tried to make me stop posting videos about certain content, and that is unethical. That is unethical, in my opinion. So we get off the phone, whatever, I call Larry back. And I'm like, okay, Larry, I'm not gonna stop making the videos. So when you're asking the people, whatever you need to ask them, tell them, what if I say no to deleting the videos, which I'm definitely not deleting? And also, what is gonna happen to me and my job at this place if I keep doing what I'm doing? Because I just need to know. And then once I know that, I can make more decisions moving forward. I was just kind of processing in the moment. What I was really thinking was, why is he asking me these questions? Now, at the moment, I thought that Lou Taylor was allegedly supposed to be a client. I'm paraphrasing, but Larry said he had been assured that the $600 million was not Britney Spears' money. He said that the person who assured this to him was a reliable source and somebody that Larry would trust. And I was like, well, who is it? And he said, well, it was her lawyers. And then a lot of things passed through my mind, but the first thing that passed through my mind was the last 15 minutes of my life that I spent pretty much defending to Larry that Lou Taylor and Stonebridge were affiliated, right? My position, they're affiliated. And now he's telling me Lou Taylor's lawyers told him the $600 million is not Britney's money. So the first question that comes to my mind is, how would they know that? If they're not affiliated, how on earth do Lou Taylor's lawyers know who that money's for. You think if they're not affiliated, Stonebridge is just like, oh yeah, random lawyers for a random person who's not affiliated with us at all. We'll give you access to all the books and records of our company. That doesn't make sense. So I asked him, can you explain to me how, if Lou Taylor and Stonebridge are not affiliated, how Lou Taylor's lawyers has enough access to the books and records of Stonebridge to be able to ascertain whether or not that's Britney Spears' money? And he sort of gets confused and says, sorry, you lost me. As if it's my logical question that has him lost. How do lawyers for somebody who's not affiliated to this company have knowledge of that company if they're not affiliated? I'm trying to figure out how Lou Taylor's lawyers would know who the money is for if what you're telling me is true, and that's that she's not affiliated with them. So then I said, can you explain to me why my mentor, Carrie, is here exactly? Because, and then I said, like, is this conversation being recorded? And he laughs at me. And at that point, I just kind of break down in tears. And I just felt so ganged up on and duped and like a total foreigner, like a total stranger in this world. And there were all of these really strange unwritten rules no one ever actually tells you, and you're supposed to just know or figure out on your own. And it was like people were always like scoffing at me and laughing at me, like something was funny when I was asking questions. And I was like, I am sorry, I don't know how all of this works. I have been a lawyer for literally 3 months. I have worked at this job for 3 months, and now for weeks I've been worrying about this. I don't know where you're getting your information. I don't know why you're asking me these questions, and I just lost it. And then after I like sort of calmed down a little bit, the conversation turns to Larry's next request. Remember now, nobody still never ever told me what's gonna happen if I say no. They just kept giving me these vague answers, these vague things like, well, we're not telling you have to delete it. He says, forget about TriStar. Forget about never posting about Lou Taylor. Would you be willing in the future moving forward to stop posting about Stonebridge and the 600 million? And I said, Larry, is Stonebridge our client? He said, no, TriStar would be the client. I said, okay. And you told me that Lou Taylor is not right now affiliated with Stonebridge, right? And he said, that's what I was told. Can you explain to me why it is you were asking me not to talk about this topic when it is not our client and it is, according to you, not even affiliated with our client? Why am I being asked not to talk about something that's not our client, it's not affiliated with our client? Like, even if it was our client, I should be able to talk about it. That's my position. I just want to let that be clear. And what he said was, well, you're implying that they're affiliated and you're implying that it's the 600 million is Britney Spears's. You wouldn't want to be saying something that isn't true. And we've been told that it's not Britney's money. And so for you to be implying that it even could be, you know, it's the firm's position that you shouldn't be doing that because the firm knows that it's not true. And you can't be implying something that the firm knows isn't true. I've never heard that before, but that's what he told me. Okay, Larry, how about this? Would you be willing to share with me the evidence you saw that proved to you and the firm that it's not Britney Spears' money? If you show that to me, I will sign a confidentiality waiver and I will never talk about it. And if it's compelling evidence that it's not Britney's, I will make a video and tell people I know it's not Britney's money. I will make a video, I will delete any and all references. I said, if you would just show me the evidence that you saw that made you think that it was not Britney's money. And he told me, well, I didn't see any evidence. It's, you know, I was told. But I don't want you to think it was like, oh, Lou Taylor told me. I've never spoken to her. I don't know Lou Taylor, he said. But it was, you know, lawyers from a reputable firm. He said, well, BJ, you're a lawyer. Would you ever lie for a client about something like that? And I said, well, Larry, if I was complicit in a multi-$100 million criminal conspiracy, yeah, I might try to cover up my crimes. I'm paraphrasing, but just, you know, I was just telling him, like, it's hard for me to really wrap my mind around it. I said, but what I will tell you, Larry, is lawyers in this case have already lied. There are court documents that say Britney Spears had dementia when she was 26 years old. And they never to this day ever submitted any capacity declaration from any doctor saying that Britney had dementia. So as far as I'm concerned, lawyers in this case have already lied to the court under penalty of perjury. So if your sources are Lou Taylor and or her lawyers, I'm sorry, that is not compelling to me. I said, and if their story and their allegation is that I'm lying, then they should sue me. And then I will request discovery and we'll go to deposition and I will be able to figure out who's lying and who's not lying. But there's systems for them sorting out if I'm lying or not, and it's not going through my employer. But sitting here today, frankly, it's insulting that Lou Taylor thought that there was any chance that she was going to be able to silence me through that route. And in fact, she figured it out probably in not that much longer than 15 seconds, because it wasn't very much longer after that. I wasn't even being told she was a client anymore. I think she probably, this is speculation, no one told me this, she probably went to the firm, which is a sports law firm. She probably went dangling her client roster in front of my firm. But I think once the firm kind of heard my side of the story and realized that a lot of her sides of the story actually in fact were not adding up, and it is kind of weird if she doesn't have an affiliation with this company, why would she, like my questions made sense, at least enough to the extent that they could not answer them. What I was told is the continued relationship was no longer tenable due to the circumstances, which is super vague and I don't know what that means. I never heard any confidential communications. I never spoke to or saw Lou Taylor or worked on any matter for TriStar Sports and Entertainment. It was a pure, sheer bullying tactic. The big reason I'm making this video is because I know for a fact Lou Taylor and TriStar Sports and Entertainment and her gaggle of lawyers have done this to other people. And so many people, dozens, maybe hundreds, are just waiting for somebody to be the first person to say it, and I will. Because after Lou Taylor was no longer a client, I still had the question, what if I say no? And no one still ever answered it. What I think she probably thought was, BJ probably cares more about this job than the Free Britney movement. Not true. Lou Taylor miscalculated whenever she imposed herself into my personal and professional life. Even if it were the case that I wouldn't be able to pay my bills or my student loans or my any of that, I still would have made the same decision because it's the right thing to do. All of these abuses were able to happen to Britney Spears. Why weren't people speaking up? There's doctors involved, lawyers, judges. You're telling me all those people are involved and not one lawyer, judge, doctor, hospital ever said this is wrong and blew the whistle? And you know what? It's kind of a valid question. But now I know the answer to that question. They don't speak up because they're extorted, blackmailed, frightened, scared, and a lot of people do have to confront whether or not they're gonna feed themselves or face, a lawsuit from a person like Lou Taylor, or isn't it easier to just bow out? And you know what? I already lost everything that Lou Taylor can try to take from me. You have to tell the story, because right now people are saying there's lawyers, there's dancers, there's all these people involved. No one ever said anything, and look, now people are coming forward, and look how much more seriously. Why do I have to hide this like a hush-hush secret away in the dark? It's the era of the whistleblower. It's time to say everything what they did to you.
The email says, "Hi Deborah, I have attempted to email Larry, that's the general counsel, a few times, but I've not received a response. Please let this message serve as my formal resignation from Winston and Strawn. I'm too traumatized by the experience I had to be able to return to work. Every time I open my Winston laptop, I have panic attacks. I think my talents will be better utilized and appreciated elsewhere once I'm able to recover from this terrible experience. Please do let me know how I should proceed in forwarding my laptop and charger back to the appropriate person. Thank you for your assistance during this very troubling and upsetting process. Best regards."
How are you feeling?
It's almost just been hanging over my head anyway, and it's I just want to have it be over with. So there it is.
It's Britney, bitch.
I'm still not of the opinion that we should be angry with Jamie Lynn Spears. We've just seen what Lou Taylor is capable of in scaring the crap out of a lot of people. And Jamie Lynn has said that she was scared. However, this part of the story is important. No matter the reason that she backpedaled, it was through her filing of the trust papers that this information became available.
July 10th, 2020, I made my first Free Britney video ever. A month and 2 days later, I found out Lou Taylor worked from 2004 to 2013 at Stonebridge Investment Counsel. Lou Taylor became Britney Spears' business manager between those years. She was also responsible for reporting to the Probate Court of California what Britney's conservatorship estate was worth. There wasn't anybody really over her. She was handling pretty much all the financial aspects of Britney Spears' life, while Lou Taylor was still an owner, manager, employee of, and registered investment advisor with Stonebridge. So she's kind of on both sides of this transaction, and there's really nobody above her checking her. You then have Jamie Lynn Spears as the trustee of Britney's SJB Trust, which nobody even knew.
Court documents show Jamie Lynn is now trustee of the pop princess's estate and must ensure it's used to protect Britney's 2 children if she passes away.
Britney Spears has been trapped in a conservatorship for over 12 years, and she can't trust anyone around her, not even her sister Jamie Lynn Spears, who has been going behind her back and working with her allegedly crazy business manager, Lou M. Taylor, to funnel some money from one of her largest trusts to one of Lou M. Taylor's business accounts. Well, it turns out in this filing, Jamie actually requested for the court to add Stonebridge Wealth Management to the trust. Why is this company that Lou M. Taylor is working for and a part of going into Britney's trust?
August 18th, Jamie Lynn Spears asked the court to move 100% of the assets from Britney's trust, her most valuable trust that was protecting all of her money, including cash, jewelry, clothing, cars. What they were trying to set the trust up to do, in my opinion, was to be able to operate completely free and clear of anything Britney Spears ever wanted. The way that that money would have moved would have been through Stonebridge Investment Counsel.
When BJ and Britney fans exposed the possible heist in progress, Jamie Lynn mysteriously reversed course and withdrew the petition she filed to move the money from Britney's trust into Lou Taylor's connected investment firm. It is very possible that Britney's fans actually saved her fortune by bringing attention to the possible attempted robbery that was underway. This was probably the moment when it became the most evident that Britney's sister and the rest of her family were knowingly complicit in her trafficking for their own personal gain.